October 31st, 1997. Big Meech's competitor Disney Kingsley Walker is driving his Nissan Maxima towards an exit ramp of downtown Atlanta's expressway near trendy Buckhead. It's his first day out after serving a reduced 3-year sentence and cooperating with federal investigators to get his close friend and drug trafficking partner, Tony Valentine, who was a close compadre of Demetrius Big Meech Flenory, arrested on drug trafficking charges. As soon as his release from prison, he'd head to Atlanta's Western Peachtree Plaza Hotel to celebrate his homecoming, and after enjoying himself, he'd head home using the exit on the Beaufort Highway connector in downtown Atlanta. A car would stop next to his Nissan Maxima, the window would get rolled down, and numerous shots towards Dennis Kingsley Walker, and he would die right there on that highway, with the alleged gunman in his lane being none other than Big Meech.
We really living a life that you niggas is rapping about. Yeah. That's another thing I'm gonna tell you, nigga. We living this shit for real, nigga. I'm talking about the $1 million joints, man, from state to state, man. We really doing it. And ass a nigga.
It ain't no other crew like this in the world, and there never will be another one. Not black. It never will be, because it said that if niggas like this is shining all together, being together, doing shit every day, then they gonna fall out over some money or somebody gonna rob, steal, and kill. I have yet to see that. All of us get along with money.
The BMF story is one of rags to riches to wretchedness. The American dream and nightmare all tangled up in one story of two brothers wrapped up in the most lavish lifestyle known to African Americans, excessive amounts of money and copious narcotics ruining the lives of million Americans, where at one point they were responsible for 75% of the drugs flooding the streets of America.
And essentially living like celebrities or better than celebrities.
They were taunting us. You know, it was probably no secret to them that we were after them. They just thought they were untouchable. They were far enough removed that nothing was going to happen to them.
I want to present to you a story of two brothers from a brutally impoverished neighborhood in southwest Detroit who went from selling crack cocaine in the gang-infested streets of Detroit to distributing copious amounts of cocaine from Colombia to the vibrant streets of Atlanta and eventually across the United States as a whole, and even venturing into creating a record label named Black Mafia Entertainment as a front to launder the excessive amount of money they had accumulated from selling drugs, which allegedly summed up to a total of $270 million.
Two local men are in custody in connection with a major drug investigation. More than 200 pounds of cocaine, 100 pounds of marijuana, and as much as $1.5 million in cash were allegedly found at his home in California.
Agents say in this whole operation they seized 6 kilos of cocaine, 80 pounds of marijuana, and seized more than $1 million in cash and in assets. We expect to learn more about this operation in the coming days.
And having billboards up with the phrase, "The world is BMF's." Sit tight, buckle up as I present to you the BMF law 50 Cent will never tell you about. In and around 1988, Big Meech and Terry Flenory would put the retail game in the rearview mirror, leaving the retail game they were introduced to by Edric E.D. Boyd and the 50 Boys, and firmly setting their eyes on rising up the ranks into the wholesale game, meaning they would have huge quantities of drugs shipped to them, and they would break it down and provide drugs to the street gangs to sell to the community. Now, as they were striving to scale their drug business into a multi-million-dollar empire stretching from the streets of Detroit throughout the United States, in the midst of their efforts to expand their business, conflict was on the verge of shaking up the streets of southwest Detroit, as drug lord Leighton Beast Simon would be released from jail after serving 8 years in the penitentiary and would declare war on the Flenory brothers for encroaching on his turf. And for anyone who's watching this documentary after watching 50 Cent's BMF series, Leighton Simon is the main antagonist portrayed in BMF as Lamar Silas, in an effort to make it clear to the Flenory brothers that he wanted them to retreat off his turf on Terry Flenory, where a black car would come to a halt on 9th Street, where Southwest T was standing on the street talking to his baby mother. Numerous shots would be unloaded towards him, hitting his right eye. He'd be rushed to the hospital and doctors would have to perform surgery on his wounded eye, but the doctors would botch the surgery, essentially being forced to compensate Terry for mishandling the surgery, and he'd then use that money to start up a legitimate sedan service in Detroit, which not only provided a lucrative front to launder the drug money they were accumulating, but also provided a discreet mode of transportation, large quantities of drugs they were trafficking across state lines.
When Terry was younger, he was a bystander to a shootout, and his right eye was grazed by a stray bullet. Doctors botched the surgery, and he was awarded a cash settlement, so he used that money to establish a legitimate sedan service in Detroit. Sedan service not only provided a legitimate front to wash the drug money, it provided a discreet method to transport large quantities of drugs.
But that actually became sort of the skeleton of much more advanced fleet of vehicles that would eventually move thousands of kilos of cocaine across the country.
And if Leighton Simon thought his hit on Terry Flenory would go unretaliated for, he had another thing coming. Cause on Memorial Day 1988, Leighton and his brother Elvis were eating dinner at an infamous local restaurant, Detroit Coney Island. And just after they had been served, a bunch of hitmen stormed into the diner and unloaded a bunch of shots aimed at Leighton Simon and his brother Elvis, hitting them both multiple times and wounding Leighton in the process. Elvis would die in Leighton's arms, and the consensus would be those responsible were the Valentine brothers, who were the top lieutenants of BMF, and this having been get back for the hit on Terry Flenory that essentially left his right eye non-functional. But the bloodshed on the streets of Detroit would be far from over, as on the 2-year anniversary of Elvis Simon's death, Big Meech would be shot 17 times by Leighton Simon and having a bullet graze his butt cheek, but unfortunately would survive this attempt on his life.
In the TV show, Southwest T gets shot in the eye, and the Lamar character is the one that's shown to do it, but from what I understand, you had nothing to do with that shooting at all.
Yeah, that's what I understand too. To Meech, and Meech was in the Jeep, and so, like I said, I don't even remember, but I got in the Jeep with him, and you know, they say it was like 18 times and shit. This motherfucker's so far underneath the damn dashboard, you know, I couldn't really get to him and shit, but, you know, some people say the guy hit him in his neck and then in the stomach and shit, you know, so.
Okay, and that was when Big Meech got shot?
Yeah, that's what they told me.
And with the constant threat on his life, Big Meech would flee to Detroit and look for ways to grow the drug empire he and his brother had built. Meech would use his time away from Detroit in the first half of the 1990s to network his way across the country, planting seeds to take over the nation's dope game and declaring his new organization, the Black Mafia Family. And while building up his connections and planting networking seeds across the country, hoping to expand his drug enterprise, in 1993, drug trafficking kingpin Harold Mills would be apprehended on drug charges and would hand down his enterprise to Demetrius, with Terry Flenory essentially taking Harold Mills' wife and making him the first lady of the Black Mafia family, bestowing her with authority and influence over the organization. Her name was Tony Welch. Remember this very incident because it may have well been the first nail in the coffin of BMF. And as the drugs kept flowing, the BMF drug enterprise grew to a $1 million business a year. With Big Meech's eagerness and vibrant networking skills, it would soon become a $1 million a week business. Cause in the mid-90s, Terry and Big Meech would travel to Los Angeles and meet up with Wayne the Wayniac Joyner. And after a solid conversation and mutual aspirations, he would agree to become BMF supply line to El Chapo's Sinaloa cartel and BMF supply chain to La Barbie's, who's the cartel boss on the Texas border. As the business expanded and the flow of drugs remained steady, Big Meech found himself increasingly drawn to the allure of Atlanta, a city pulsing with energy, late-night club scenes, and the gleam of luxury cars cruising past the opulent Ritz-Carlton. To him, Atlanta wasn't just a hub of opportunity, it was a vibrant metropolis synonymous with hip-hop royalty, a place that had long held a special place in his heart. Despite their shared empire, he and his brother Terry couldn't have been more different in how they carried themselves. Terry was calculated and reserved, uninterested in the limelight or external validation that came with their success. The money, power, and influence were enough for him, but for Big Meech, he craved attention. He thrived in it. From the stares he commanded when he walked into clubs, to magazine covers that immortalized his presence, to music video cameos that cemented his status, Big Meech lived for the spectacle, for the recognition, for the larger-than-life image that he had meticulously crafted. And regardless of Big Meech now residing in Atlanta, big shipments of narcotics would cross the border from El Chapo's Sinaloa cartel and make its way towards the Motor City, where Terry would oversee the whole operation, which consisted of the product being cut and packaged, then transported to Atlanta, where it would be distributed towards various other states like Alabama, California, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, and Tennessee. By the mid-1990s, the Black Mafia family, well known as BMF, were more than just a drug empire. With millions of dollars flowing through their operation, they sought new ways to legitimize their wealth. Their eyes were set on one of the most powerful industries of the era, hip-hop. Big Meech and his crew began funding independent record labels, helping upcoming artists to get studio time, distribution, and the kind of street cred money couldn't buy. Their influence was everywhere, backstage at concerts, in the VIP sections of clubs, and behind the scenes of some of the most memorable moments in hip-hop. Hip-hop and the streets had always been intertwined, and BMF understood that better than most. They saw the rap game not only as a way to claim their money, but as a vehicle to cement their legacy. Through their connections and deep pockets, they began funding independent record labels, backing artists, and positioning themselves as major players in the industry. At the heart of BMF's musical influence was Big Meech, whose charisma and larger-than-life persona made him a fixture in the hip-hop scene. Rappers took notice. Young Jeezy, one of the biggest names coming out of Atlanta at the time, was closely affiliated with BMF. His rise in the early 2000s was partly supported by their financial muscle. The streets were talking, and the music was reflecting it. May 9th, 2005. A 28-year-old Young Jeezy would drop his audacious diss track directed to Gucci Mane, titled Stay Strapped, calling him a bitch and even proclaiming Gucci Mane's own mother knew he was a pussy. At the end of the song, he would let it be known that he would pay anyone $10,000 if they could rob Gucci Mane of his So Icy chain and bring it to him. 10 days following Jeezy's bounty on Gucci Mane's So Icy chain, lyrics on diss records would unfortunately turn into gun violence. As on the night of May 19th, a mere 10 days following Jeezy's diss track, Stay Strapped, Gucci Mane would visit prostitute's apartment in Decatur, Georgia. 4 men in black clothing would knock at the door with the female conveniently letting them in. They would then immediately run up on Gucci Mane, punch him in the mouth, threaten to shoot him, and pistol whip the female in her own apartment.
He visited a young lady, went over to her place. She was there, he was there. At one point, she opened up a door. 5 guys come running in.
Are y'all seriously sending 5 people in the house to try to kill this man?
One of them had green tape. One of them had a weapon. One of them had brass knuckles and hit him with brass knuckles.
After this brief yet violent altercation, one of the 4 men would yell, "Shoot him," with Gucci Mane immediately grabbing his pistol, unloading a barrage of shots, and essentially killing Pookie Loke, whose real name was Henry Lee Clark III. I've extensively covered rappers who were involved in heinous murders on my channel, from King Von, Lil Durk, and YNW Melly. But let me present to you rappers who went on and cold-bloodedly killed black men and evaded the hands of justice. Unlike various murder cases in hip-hop that stem from gang affiliations and conflict within gang politics, the story of Gucci Mane and Young Jeezy's beef is a little different. April 13th, 2005, Gucci Mane would collaborate with Young Jeezy and gift the streets their hit song, So Icy, a track all about them flaunting their expensive and eye-catching jewelry. The song was such a success upon its release, it even debuted at number 5 on the US Billboard Under 100 Singles chart, and due to the song garnering so much attention and success, it became very evident that it would catapult the career of whoever had the rights to the song. And after its release, Young Jeezy would allegedly try and buy the song off Zaytoven and Gucci Mane and have it be the lead single on his upcoming studio album, Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101. But to his disappointment, Gucci Mane and Zaytoven would decline this offer and would proceed to make So Icy as his lead single to his debut studio album, Trap House. Fueled by the bitter taste the So Icy situation left in his mouth, Jeezy would put his gangbangers on alert by dropping his diss track towards Gucci Mane titled Stay Strapped, calling Gucci Mane a claiming Gucci Mane had fake jewelry on and wasn't in fact so icy as he claimed to be, even claiming that he out-rapped him on Black Tea and on their standout collaboration, So Icy, and of course letting it be known that he would pay any one of his gangbangers $10,000 if they could rob Gucci Mane of his So Icy chain. Gucci Mane wouldn't take any slander on his name lying down, so he'd drop round 1, a rebuttal to Young Jeezy's accusations, going as far as clearing the record on the authenticity of his jewelry and stating that he was wearing drug lord Big Meech's jewelry in the music video to So Icy, stating Jeezy is an imposter claiming to be a gangbanger and deserved an Oscar, and claiming Death Row were on the verge of dropping him due to his inability to sell records. Lyrics would soon turn into bloodshed, as on the night of May the 9th, 4 men associated to Young Jeezy would get into contact with a female Gucci Mane knew in an attempt to set him up and rob him of his So Icy chain. And on that godforsaken night, according to Gucci Mane's lawyer, Gucci Mane would visit a female's apartment in Decatur, Georgia. The 4 men would storm into the apartment, pistol whip the female not to make it obvious she was involved in setting up Gucci Mane, and punch Gucci with brass knuckles. And as soon as one of the men yelled shoot him, Gucci Mane would pull out his firearm and unload a barrage of shots towards Pookie Loke, whose government name was Henry Lee Clark III.
He visited a young lady, went over to her place. She was there, he was there. At one point, she opened up a door. 5 guys come running in.
Are y'all seriously sending 5 people in the house to try to kill this man?
One of them had green tape. One of them had a weapon. One of them had brass knuckles and hit him with brass knuckles. Didn't hit him real hard, had him wrapped up. Another guy had a weapon, hit one of the other guys with a weapon. It became a situation where he defended himself. Somebody yelled, one of the other 5 guys yelled, shoot him, something to that effect. He grabbed a gun that was nearby and he opened fire to defend himself.
After the shots rang off, the men's survival instincts would kick in and they would run out of the apartment, fearing for their lives. A wounded Pookie Loc would run into the woods and collapse behind the Columbia Middle School in Decatur, Georgia, succumbing to his injuries and, unfortunately, passing away. Jeezy wouldn't open up about the regret he endured following Pookie Loc's passing until 2015 on his single, Forgive Me, rapping about how he was never gonna snitch about what happened the night Pookie Loc died, and further elaborate about how he didn't send any of his homies to rob Gucci Mane the night Henry died. And soon after learning that he was wanted in his involvement in the murder of Pookie Loc, Gucci Mane would surrender himself to the police, pleading self-defense and stating in a phone interview following his incarceration that he in fact isn't a murderer, but in fact was a man who feared for his life and would try to turn the murder of Pookie Loc from a bad situation into a good one by selling more records from the infamy surrounding his name. And on January 2006, Gucci Mane would be acquitted of all his charges, with the district attorneys citing the cause of Gucci Mane's freedom as a lack of evidence to fully prosecute him and take him to trial. And after being acquitted, Gucci Mane would drop his diss track directed to Jeezy titled Truth, rapping about how he hopes Jeezy didn't pay any of the men who tried robbing him on that infamous night because they failed to rob him of his so icy chain, claiming Jeezy must have been mad at him because he slept with his then girlfriend and frequent collaborator Keisha Cole, and telling Jeezy that he should go dig up his dead partner Pookie Loc, and even going as far as savagely performing the song in his face years later when he and Jeezy did a verses in 2020, vehemently rapping this gut-wrenching line, "Go dig up your dead partner, I bet he can't say
Go dig your partner up, I bet he can't say shit.
And if that in and of itself wasn't enough, he'd rap about how he believed his house was haunted by the ghost of Pookie in his 2022 Lil Durk assisted track, Rumors.
Did I think my house is haunted? Yeah, by who the ghost of Pookie?
Okay, so like we talked about, O-Dog ends up cooperating. Doc Marshall, who had that whole situation hanging over him for a few years, he fully starts to cooperate, and he starts putting together all the Meech and Terry pieces and showing the authorities how the whole BMF system worked on the back end. So the Fed raids started to happen. They arrested Terry in Missouri at a gambling party. They found $6 million in cash. The Feds kicked down Magic Store in St. Louis. His house got raided and he got arrested. Meech's house in Miami got raided, but Meech was already gone by that time.
Mm-hmm. He's in Dallas.
So he goes to Texas, but they ended up finding where he's at in Dallas. So they ended up getting into his house. He gets arrested. They found a gun in his safe. The lawyer went to go get him out, thinking, okay, this is an illegal search. It's just a gun. No big deal. I'll get you right out. Not knowing that this is actually part of the bigger BMF indictment.
The DEA's case was based on wiretap evidence, both on Terry's and Meech's side of the organization. The IRS had compiled a massive amount of evidence demonstrating that the two brothers had been hiding and laundering huge sums of money, proceeds from illegal drug operations. Together, the DEA and the IRS had coordinated local police departments from all around the country and amassed enough evidence to demonstrate the extraordinary reach of the Black Mafia family.
Both Demetrius and Terry Flenory and almost all the rest of the members of the organization realized that the evidence was absolutely overwhelming. So pleading out to 30 years, I suppose, seemed a little bit better than life.